Howdy, howdy, welcome back, welcome back. I'm Sheryl Schmidt from Sheryl Schmidt Artistry. Thanks for joining me today. If you're new here, thanks for stopping. Take a minute, look around. Hopefully you'll find something to inspire you today. If you're returning, a very special welcome to you. Thank you for coming back and spending some time with me today. I really appreciate that. Don't forget, you guys, to hit the subscribe button and the like button and the bell icon. That's all down below. Every time I upload a new video, you will be notified of that. So today, what are we doing? Well, we're gonna play with some patio bricks. I've got 2 patio bricks here. They're heavy. They're 4 inches by 8 inches. And I'm gonna turn these into some bookends for my bookshelf today. I'm gonna walk you through how I do that. You need minimal supplies to make this project, and when you're done you've got a nice set of custom bookends. So what am I going to use today? Well, I'm going to use some scrapbook paper. This is an older sheet of scrapbook paper. I've been in a big use up my stash mode here. I don't know if you can get this paper anymore, but it's the Proper Gentleman collection from Graphic 45. I've had this in my stash for a long time. As you can see, I even have used it and cut that clock out of something else. So it was in a paper pad I had laying in the house. And the method I'm going to use is basically decoupage. So the first thing I'm going to do is take and kind of, hope you can see that. Here, I'll zoom you out just a little bit so you can see a little bit more what I'm doing. I'm just going to take and kind of give that a rough measure, trying to decide how much of that image I want on there, and roughly score on that edge there. Yeah, I think that will be nice. Let's take and cut. All right, so you can see I'm going to cut most of that bottom piece off because I'm not going to use it. I'm going to cut the top area off that I don't need as well. Now when I'm working with Mod Podge or I'm doing any kind of decoupage, what I want to do is I'm using the matte Mod Podge. I buy my Mod Podge in big buckets like this. And I'm just gonna scoop out into a cup here what I'm gonna need. There we go, set that aside. Now when I'm working with Mod Podge, it's really important, let's move things around, that you coat both sides of the project you're working on, because you don't want wrinkling. I find if I only put the Mod Podge down on the brick, or I only put the Mod Podge down on the paper, it does tend to give me a wrinkle after. So I want to give this a fairly decent coating here. As you can see, I'm not being shy about how much I'm putting down there. I like working with the matte, especially on a project like this, as I'm not overly interested in having a shiny finish on anything. You can absolutely use gloss. I'm just using a foam brush. You could always paint your brick first, put a layer of acrylic paint or spray paint, and that would give you a little bit of a barrier between the brick and the Mod Podge, and your brick wouldn't soak quite as much of the Mod Podge up. I don't typically do that, as I don't find it really absorbs that much of the Mod Podge that I would need the barrier. So now that I've got both pieces covered, I'm going to bring that paper in. I'm lining it up along my edge here. Smooth that down with my fingers. Just tip my brick. As you can see, this side doesn't go quite to the edge, and that's all right. That doesn't matter to me. Got a little stone or something. What I did last night already is I took and gave these bricks a wipe down. I wiped off as much of the dirt and debris as I could. I give that a good, there we go. And I'm just, because the paper is now a little bit softened by the Mod Podge, I'm pressing it into any of the little divots that might be on the brick. You could probably get a different style brick that would be a little bit more even finished all the way around. I like the distressy nature of these bricks. And on this corner here, I'm going to just put a little notch in, just so that I can get a little bit better. So I'm just folding over my bottom corner like I would a gift if I was wrapping a gift. Just making that nice and neat down in there. And anywhere that's kind of dry or it's not sticking real well, I'll just pull that back and push that in there. And let's do this top piece here. All right. So this corner piece here at the top, the paper was much softer from the Mod Podge, so I didn't need to splice that. It curled around and over beautifully. There we go. So when this goes on the bookshelf, it'll go like this. This is going to have a piece of fun foam on it, or felt. And that'll be the side that goes up against the books. You'll be able to see this when you're looking straight on. And then I've got a decorative finish over on this side here. So everything's adhered down. Now I do have these scraps of paper. I could take and cover that top piece with the leftover, which I think I'm going to do. We'll turn that around this way. And that is going to give me a really nice finish along the top. So same thing. We're going to Mod Podge up there. And we're going to Mod Podge the back of this piece. And that's going to go on. And I'm just using my fingers just to make sure everything is on nice. If you don't have scrap paper, or you don't have scrap paper that scrapbooking paper that you like, look at your calendars. Do you have a calendar, an old calendar kicking around with a nice picture on it? I've done that for my husband. We did a superhero set of bookends for him. There we go. And I don't mind that little overlap, especially on the top of my bookend. It's not going to be that noticeable. So I'm going to set that aside here to dry. Like I said, that's, let's see here, let's put it on that just so it's out of the way. And because I had my paper on that brick curled around this way, on my other side, I'm going to want my paper coming down this direction. I think I'm going to just line it right up with the bottom because I really like the clocks all the way down to the bottom. I think that'll work well. So then it'll be cut off at the top there. And let's score that. Nice. All right, so same thing. Let's move over here a little bit. You want to make sure you've got lots of Mod Podge on your paper. And by doing your paper piece first, that Mod Podge has a chance to start to soak in and soften your paper. And it looks like I will probably need a little bit more Mod Podge. Let's see how far I get. So like I said, I washed these with a little bit of water. I took a broom to them first and tried to get as much of the dirt and debris off, and then I just used a rag and some water last night and let it dry overnight just so that all the moisture would be out of them today. There we go. And then we're gonna lay this piece. We'll line it up against that outside edge there. And just work those corners down, pushing my paper down into any of the wedges that are missing. And then I want to make sure we get this. Now again, on this bottom piece, I am going to just snip this. And everything that's on the bottom is going to be hidden because we'll put a piece of fun foam on the bottom of this so that we don't scratch our bookshelves. There we go. That's all pushed. So you can see I've got that all pushed down and nice and smooth against the brick. Nothing's lifting. And if you come back in an hour or two and it has started to lift, it's not that big a deal. When we start putting on our top coats of Mod Podge, we can catch any of those areas. Let's put a little bit more Mod Podge up here. Make sure everything's pushed in nice. And I always dispense out some Mod Podge. I don't dip from my bucket, just because there is still a little bit of dirt on here that's coming off. But once everything's covered, that, of course, that dirt will stay put. Perfect, that's all done. And now I want to put something up on top like I did the other one. Like that. I'm too lazy this morning to go and measure this, so I'm just gonna do a rough estimate of what I'm gonna need. There we go, that shapes up nice, and then let's see here. I think that'll look good. And in case you haven't realized that yet, those of you that have been here for a while, I'm not into perfection. I'm very much a close enough crafter. I don't do a lot of exact measurements. I just hope for the best. Mainly because I don't like dealing with exact measurements. When we start getting into, 7/16 and 5/8, and I just can't be bothered. I measure everything, 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, close enough. That's just how my brain works. I don't like dealing with a lot of numbers. So I don't do a lot of precise measuring. Now I've got a little bit of a bump here, but that's nothing I can do about it. That's an imperfection in the brick. It's going to add character to the bookend. There we go. That's all stuck down. This is my outside edge here. I'm going to just set this down here. I've just got wax paper under my work area. Set this down. I'm going to let this dry now. I'm going to let these 2 bricks dry for a couple hours, and then I'll be back to put a layer of Mod Podge on them. So when I start covering them in Mod Podge, I will be back to show you how I do that. So those have had a chance to dry for a bit now, and everything's really well adhered on. It feels good. Nothing feels loose underneath. And just because I am a distress girl, I like things looking old and beat up. I'm just going to take and come in with an old nail file here. I use nail files a lot for sanding projects, and I'm gonna just come in along those edges, not being real precise, not worrying about it being real perfect. I just want to sand away some of that And then I'm gonna take my coffee archival ink, load up my brush. Now, archival ink, once it's dry, won't react with the glue or anything, so that's why I'm using this. And I'm just running that down the edges where I sanded. Those sanded pieces will pick up a little bit more ink than the unsanded edges. And I just like doing this because it ages the paper, makes it look a little bit older, a little bit more worn. If these book ends were, you know, really genuinely old, they'd have wear and tear and discoloration on them. So I'm just taking and adding that in there ahead of time. All right, I'll do the other one. And once I have these inked, then I'm going to put my first layer of sealant on, and I'm just using my Mod Podge, the same stuff that I use to adhere all the papers down. And like I said earlier, I'm using the matte because I don't want a shine on these. Having the glossy Mod Podge would probably help if you needed to ever wipe these down, but even with the matte, they should wipe down just fine if you ever need to wipe them down. So I hope you're able to see how that's just aging and making those edges just look a little bit older. I like that. I like how it gives it a little bit more character. All right, so now that that's done, I'm going to take my brush. I had just wrapped my phone brush in a little bit of peel and stick saran wrap to keep that brush from drying out while I was waiting for stuff to dry. And I'm going to give it a liberal coating of Mod Podge. I don't want drips, I don't want runs. And after I put that on, I use my finger and smooth it out because I also don't want brush strokes. And down here in the little crevice, you might get a little puddle of Mod Podge. That's fine. I don't worry about that too much. Once I've got that coated, I'll just turn it over and get a layer on the front here. And I will let this dry about an hour or so between layers. There we go. Like I said, I just want to smooth out any puddles. I don't want drips or runs. Just smooth that out, give it a nice finish. And Mod Podge is fairly self-leveling. Just going to make sure I got a little bit down here on this bottom edge. I'm not overly concerned about the bottom edge, as I will have a foam base on it just so it doesn't scratch my bookshelf. Let's see here. And make sure I get a layer on the top, make sure all the corners are wrapped and smoothed. There you go. Can you see what I've done there? No drips, no runs. And I'm going to repeat that process over here. That little piece where I got a little aggressive when I was sanding, I just put a little bit of glue underneath, stuck it back down. Nice. All those edges are adhered. Got the side glued down now. A little bit down here on the bottom. Once again, like I said, I'm putting foam on the bottom, so I'm not overly concerned. But it's always nice to have your work finished off in those areas. I find that matte Mod Podge also doesn't tend to show the streaking quite as bad as what a gloss would. And you could stop after your first layer of Mod Podge. I really like to have a nice seal on there, and I feel that, you know, 3 to 4 layers of Mod Podge really seals the paper in well, catches any spots that you might miss from, you know, this first layer, and it just gives it a more finished, polished look. A little bit too much there, so just smooth that out. Down here onto this bottom ledge. Perfect. I am really liking this. I hope you are as well. Okay, so I'm gonna let that dry, and then, like I said, I'm gonna give it several more coats. And once I have all the coats on that I want, I will be back to show you how I attach the foam to the base. I've given it about 3 coats. 3 coats of the Mod Podge matte. That's what we've been using, or what I've been using all along. And like I said, if you want a high gloss, you can go ahead and use the glossy Mod Podge. You could take at this point now and you could add extra embellishments on it if you wanted to, and decorate it some more. I like it just as it is. Now I want to put some protection on here because I don't want it scratching my bookshelf. So I will, so I got a little bit of glue on the back here. So what I'm gonna do is I've just picked up some fun foam from the dollar store, 50 sheets, and they work perfect. I've cut them down to fit the base. Now these bricks are approximately 4 inches across. I cut the fun foam down to 3 3/4, and it's about 2 inches deep, and I've cut it down so that these pieces are 3.5 inches. Sorry, the bricks were about 3 3/4 inches. I cut this down to be 3.5 inches, and 1 3/4 inches this way. And all I'm going to do is use my Mod Podge. And again, you're going to want to give your fun foam a layer of Mod Podge. And then you want to put some Mod Podge on your brick as well. And these bricks are heavy enough that even if you're holding up big heavy books, it's not going to move. And if you didn't want to do the foam on the bottom, you could get little rubberized feet. I've seen those at the dollar store. And that would work as well. There we go. And do the same over on this one. Get that Mod Podge on there. Whoop. And then I want to put some Mod Podge down on my brick. If you're finding that your brick still has kind of a gravelly feel to it and you're not liking that, or you're worried that it might release some extra gravel and stuff, you can give your whole brick a coating in Mod Podge and seal the brick in. I've done that. I've gone over my whole brick. I like it because it darkens up the color of the brick, and it brings out, you can see it really brings out all the different colorings and stuff in there. And then we're going to want to put layer of foam. Man, I've got Mod Podge everywhere but where I want it. There we go. We want to put Mod Podge down those sides, and just like the other piece, we are going to Mod Podge onto the foam. And then onto the brick. And I'll just center that on there like that. I'm just pushing a little bit extra Mod Podge down into those crevices in the sides of the brick. There we go, and we'll do the last one, and that's it. That is my bookends. I will include some pictures of them in action and some close-ups for you to see at the end of the video. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification down below. If there's anything you'd like to see me make or do, please leave that in the comment section, and I'll do my very best to try and make a video showing you what it is you'd like to see. There we go. And just and that's it. That is my bookends complete. And that Mod Podge will set up quite quickly. There we go. Oh, sorry, that was my phone. I forgot to put it on silent. That's it. That's the project. It cost me $3 for the bricks. I went to Rona, and they were $1.49 a piece out in the lumber area, and a little bit of Mod Podge and a sheet of paper, and I have a beautiful set of custom bookends that are nice and heavy. They'll look great on my bookshelf. They'll look they look like they're way more expensive than what they really are. So you guys have a really great rest of your week, and I'll talk to you in my next video. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.